right, hello, ladies and gentlemen. So today we are talking about training your breathing for uphill hiking. Now, we all know one of the biggest issues that so many hikers face when they're on the trail is that feeling of getting huffed and puffed when going up hills, that feeling of breathlessness, that feeling of just not being able to catch your air, and that feeling of just not having a great time on steep ascents. And there are loads and loads and loads of hikers out there who, no matter what they do in their training or how much hiking they do, they always find themselves getting out of breath. And previously on this podcast, we've talked through loads of different training ideas and strategies to help with this. Lots of different workouts, lots of different ideas around how you can improve this. And today, I just want to share with you one really, really fantastic training method, which I'm pretty sure I haven't mentioned on the podcast before. Maybe I have. It's been through over 300 episodes, been a few years, but I'm pretty sure this is new to the podcast. And it's something that I've been really, really, really liking with my hikers over the last 6 months or so. And I think it can be a great training method that any hiker who does struggle with breathing up hills for them to give a go. And I'm just going to talk you through the workout, and then I'll talk you through the specific benefits of this particular workout. Now, this workout, typically the best way to go about it is using, it's going to be some type of stair or hill session. So finding a set of stairs or a relatively steep hill outdoors is a good place to start if you have access to one. And even better, if you can find a set of stairs or a relatively steep hill, which will take you, 2 or more minutes to go up just at a casual pace, that'll be ideal. Now, if you get something that'll take you like 30 seconds to go up, if you're just going up and down the flight of stairs, you might be able to get away with it, but it probably isn't going to be quite as effective. So you want to find yourself a relatively steep hill or set of stairs. And if you just don't have access to anything like that, if you just live somewhere that's completely flat, or maybe you're in the middle of winter or the middle of summer and getting outdoors is just not enjoyable, then you can also do this workout on either like a Stairmaster or stair climber machine if you go into the gym, or if you're just doing this at home, you could also probably do it just by doing step-ups. So just getting a box or a couch or a bench or something like that and just stepping up and down. So either a steep hill or stairs or some step-ups or a Stairmaster. Then essentially what you're going to do is just set yourself a timer on your phone for anywhere from like 20 minutes to 40 minutes. And it really depends on how long you kind of want to commit to this workout. So if you feel like you want to train for 40 minutes, put it at 40 minutes. If you're like, I've only got 20 minutes, put it at 20 minutes. You can do shorter, you can do longer, but, typically I aim for 20 to 40 minutes. And then essentially what you're going to do, first up, is you're going to climb that hill or climb that set of stairs at a pace where you can constantly breathe through your nose. So as we talked in the podcast loads, like nose breathing is a great measure of intensity in the sense that if you can constantly breathe through your nose while, exercising, that is a clear sign that you're predominantly using the aerobic energy system, which is the predominant energy system we use when we're hiking, which essentially we kind of want to develop as much as we can. And if we can make sure we're predominantly using this energy system when we're going up hills, that can make things much more comfortable and very energy efficient. So essentially the first interval, you climb this hill or this set of stairs at a pace where you can constantly breathe through your nose. And if you can't breathe through your nose, maybe you've got like a dodgy nose or maybe it's super cold or whatever it may be. The other measure is basically where you can comfortably carry a conversation. So you're not huffing and puffing like in between words, but you can comfortably carry a conversation. So you maintain that pace all the way up to the top. Once you hit the top, then you immediately come down the bottom, basically as quick as you safely can. So, obviously if you're on a steep hill, you don't want to be kind of hustling down too much or where you're going to trip and fall or anything like that. But come down, so you're not just dawdling down, but as quick as you safely and comfortably can. Now, the next time you climb this and climb these hills or stairs, you're going to climb up again, but this time you're going to push the pace quite a bit quicker. And you're going to push it so by the top, you're actually pretty out of breath. And ideally, about halfway up the climb, you're getting a bit out of breath. And by the top, you're like, huffed and puffed. And then again, you turn around, go back down to the bottom. And the next time you climb, you go back to that nose breathing pace. And then next time, getting huffed and puffed. The next time, nose breathing. And you literally just keep on doing that until that timer goes off for whatever you've prescribed. And, with this one, ideally, like just the down periods are kind of your rest period. So you're not really resting in between intervals. There may be stages where you just need to take a minute or two to have a drink or whatever it may be, but ideally you should be kind of moving throughout the majority of this workout. And that's literally it. Find a steep set of stairs or hills, set a timer, climb up and down at climb at nose breathing, then climb at huffing and puffing, nose breathing, huffing and puffing, and just repeat that. And if you're doing this with, say, step ups or on a Stairmaster, it may be a case of you climb for 3 minutes at nose breathing, rest for a minute, then climb for 3 minutes at huffing and puffing, rest for a minute, and kind of do that. Now, this kind of idea around going up and down a set of stairs or hills, this is a type of workout that hikers naturally lean towards. It's something a lot of people are really familiar with and really common. It's really common in the hiking world. But this particular approach that I've just described comes with a few unique benefits. Now, the first benefit is literally you're just getting to practice your pacing. So one of the biggest issues that I see from hikers, or when they're like struggle with huffing and puffing, going up hills, is they can't pace themselves. Meaning they've only really got two speeds on the hills. They've either got moderate speed, which gets them huffed and puffed, or they have super quick speed, which they absolutely ruins them. And they don't really have a speed where they can pull it back, maintain a little bit slower, but that it can actually get up comfortably. Like a lot of hikers just don't do that. So basically practicing this nose breathing where you're intentionally holding back your pace, it can be really, really, really beneficial. Because at first, when you practice this, you're probably going to have to go super slow to maintain this. And you may be like, oh my gosh, this is super frustrating. This is really slow. And it can be, a bit annoying. And it's not initially a speed you would typically do on the trail. But as you practice this and you develop this in your training, you'll notice that you'll be able to sustain quicker and quicker and quicker climbs while keeping your breathing under control. And this is for a few reasons. Number one, because you're developing your aerobic energy system. That's getting better. That's getting more efficient. So you can produce energy with that energy system at higher and higher intensities. Also, you're just getting more efficient at this type of breathing. And it's like any learned skill, you're kind of getting better at it. And then also number three is you're just getting more confident and more capable at holding yourself back. So not only practicing this will help you feel more comfortable on steep sections, and it'll help you actually manage to maintain your pace and pull back your pace a little bit more when you're actually hiking, but it actually can be really, really beneficial for energy management on a full day's hiking. Because if you're sort of not ever getting yourself to that stage, you're getting really huffed and puffed, you're maintaining your pace, that can be really, really good at just about making sure you minimize fatigue creeping up. So that's benefit number one. It purely just gives you the opportunity to practice this efficient pacing. Now, benefit number two is this helps you, gives you the opportunity to practice quicker climbs. So most of us, don't particularly enjoy the feeling of getting really, really out of breath on hills. And because of this, our natural tendency is just try to avoid this type of feeling in our training. And basically we'll say, hey, I don't really like these types of trainings that get me feeling like this, where I have to be out of breath for a minute, for 2 minutes, for 3 minutes, for up to 8 minutes, or however long your hills are. I don't really like this feeling. So I'm not going to do it in my training because I don't enjoy it. And then what ends up happening is the only time we get exposed to this type of thing, where our breathing is struggling for such extended periods, is actually when we're hiking. So we don't get enough exposure to this to actually get better at it. Now, on the other hand, if we do expose our bodies and our minds to this feeling of breathlessness in our training, where we get this level of breathlessness and we kind of sustain it for a reasonable amount of time as you're going up the hill, and if you get more familiar and comfortable in this state, it's going to feel much, 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 much more manageable on the trail. Both because your body will adapt in certain ways to make that feel more comfortable. And also number two, just mentally, you will recognize this. You will know the limits, your limits a little bit better, and it won't feel as uncomfortable. Now, a lot of people listen to this, I know, and I'm going to cut this off before you think about it. You might be thinking, okay, cool. If you want to get exposed to huffing and puffing, I do that in my HIIT classes all the time. I go down to the local gym, I do my classes, I get really huffed and puffed for 45 seconds on, 15 seconds off, or whatever it may be. And I get this already. But I want to say what I'm describing here is a little bit different to that. Because what I'm describing here is getting to this level of breathlessness, but sustaining it for a reasonable amount of time as you're going up that hill for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever it may be. It's a bit different compared to just a HIIT class where you do 40 seconds or 45 seconds and then rest. and then go and stop and go and stop and go and stop. That can be beneficial in certain ways, but this is a bit more specific to hill climbing. And then unique benefit number 3 of this particular workout is you get to practice your breathing control. So essentially the act of alternating between this huffing and puffing and this nose breathing, that in itself can be really, really beneficial. Because if you practice this in the training, over time, you will notice when you're actually out on the trail, you'll find it much easier and easier and easier to bring your breathing levels down and back under control when you are going through tougher sections of the trail. So to put this into context, like imagine yourself like going up a hill, and you go up a hill for a 5-minute climb, and at the top, say you're with a group, and you've got it with a couple of people who are pretty quick on hills, and they just sort of zip off and do their thing. And you're climbing, you're huffing, you're heaving, you're not having a good time. Now, typically for us, if we're not having a good time on a hill, we'll get to the top and we'll be like, oh, I need a minute or 2 or 3 or 4 to catch my breath. I need time to let my heart rate come down, to let this flush feeling come down. But sometimes if we're out with a group, and maybe they are a little bit quicker, it can be a little bit uncomfortable. And you can feel a little bit bad about just making people wait for you because they've already been waiting a minute or 2 as you climb up. And then you're asking them to wait even longer at the top, which, if you've got an understanding hiking partner, usually isn't a big deal, but you've probably all been in a situation where some of our hiking partners maybe aren't super understanding. So essentially, if you get to practice this sort of thing where you get out of breath, but then you bring your breathing back down to a level that's much more comfortable while you are actually moving, while you are actually still climbing, which you're doing in this hill or stair session, that in itself can be awesome. Because when you're on the hill, when you're on the trail, maybe you do a really tough section, maybe you do still get a bit out of breath, but at the top, you're like, you know what? I can keep on hiking, and in a minute or so, your breathing's much more controlled. You're like, boom, I'm back in action. And that in itself can be really, really, really awesome. So not only are you getting like the benefits of any old stair or hill session, but getting that practicing the pacing, practicing the quicker breathing, and practicing your breathing control, those can be absolutely awesome. And I'll also say, as with any workout, obviously this in isolation isn't going to do, dramatic differences if that's all you're doing in your week. But if you add it into your normal training program, if you've added in on top of your strength training, your other cardio, your regular hiking, whatever it may be, this in itself can be really, 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 really good. I would typically recommend maybe following this workout for anywhere from 3 to 8 weeks, depending on how bored you get. And basically what I would either do is each time you do it, you can either add a little bit extra time. So if you did 20 minutes going up and down, the next week you can do 23 minutes. The next week you can do 26. The next week you can do 29. And that's an easy way of just adding a bit more in. Or alternatively, each week you can add a bit of pack weight, and you may just stick at the 20 minutes each week, but you may do 4 kilo pack the next week, then 5 kilos, then 6 kilo, and kind of slowly progress that. Or you can alternate between the two. But if you do struggle with your breathing up hills, this can be an awesome option to give a go. So that's probably enough about that. I really do hope you've enjoyed today's episode. I hope you get some good insights. I hope a few people give this a go and can see some solid benefits from it. So thank you so much for listening. Hope you have a lovely day, and we'll talk to you very, very soon.